All right, welcome to the NFL show from talkSPORT USA, talkSPORT's dedicated NFL YouTube channel. Some brilliant stuff on the channel over the last few days, so go and check out our interviews ahead of week 2 with the likes of Javon Hargrave, the Grave Digger. I can't remember who else I spoke to now I've done that. Caden Ellis was a wonderful interview with the Falcons. Loads of really good stuff up there. Olu Fashanu, who I've absolutely got a complete and utter man crush now on since speaking to him, even though the Jets' offensive line then went and imploded in week 2. All of this good stuff is up on talkSPORT USA's YouTube channel and our NFL show with me, Will Gavin, with him, Brian T. Smith. BT Smith, how are we doing, sir?
Will, how's it? Man, week 1 was fun. Week 2 was even better. And we found out this weekend, sort of random, like the definition of random, that we're both huge, I don't want to say closet, but huge Radiohead fans.
Nothing closet.
I've known you for almost 2 years. I had no idea. So we've the special relationship is growing. We're crossing borders. We got DT, Donald Trump is coming to the UK, but we're far ahead of that because we both found out we're huge radio fans. We both got tickets this weekend, which felt like a lifetime achievement. You're seeing them in the UK. I'm going to see them in Denmark. Let's get into the NFL, man.
Are we going to do a live show from Windsor this week? Or maybe from Checkers?
I have my Windsor invite, but I don't think you were invited.
Oh, no. Oh, is that like an expat thing? Is that like all of the Americans come and wave your flags?
Before we do that, let's give a shout out to producer, let's just call him Producer Tom, but Producer Tom has been doing such an incredible job for weeks, months right now. But the stuff on the channel has really been great. And please, we're not just saying this to say it. Like, subscribe, follow. Will does all these interviews. We have all this covered at talksport.com. We're really increasing our coverage this year, and I think it shows.
Listen, great week 2. Loads of big storylines to talk about. Some debunked from week 1.
Yeah.
Some things like the Lions stinking, apparently not true. Like maybe other teams being contenders, also not being so true. But as always, if you're first tuning into the show for the first time, on a Monday we do our 5 in 5. 5 big topics, 5 minutes on each. A buzzer will cut us off. We're only allowed that 5 minutes. And we're going to start things off where it has to start off with the Super Bowl 59 rematch, where the Philadelphia Eagles defense held those Kansas City Chiefs to just 187 yards, 55 on the ground. And yes, they eked out a 20-17 victory. But boy, those Chiefs do not look like the dynasty of the last 5 years.
The dynasty's done.
Oh!
Let's just start. Like let's be real. I have now watched the Kansas City Chiefs, and we talked about this every week last week on the show. Will, were the Chiefs underrated? Were they overrated? Was Travis Kelce done? How were they winning games? Andy Reid early in the season last year called them the luckiest team in the NFL. They barely won games. We said they didn't deserve to be the number 1. All these things. And you know what? In the end, it was true because they were horrendous in the Super Bowl, Will. We were in the Superdome. We were there for talkSPORT with New Orleans. Patrick Mahomes was not even, he was barely in the game. Travis Kelce had a horrible game. They were completely blown out. The score looked better than the game really was. I was watching an intro into the rematch on Sunday. I had forgotten that the Eagles' starting field position in the Super Bowl was like the 43-yard line. That's how bad the game was. Then you play this game. Travis Kelce had a few catches. Travis Kelce bobbles a ball that he should have caught. The old Travis Kelce catches that. That's the game-changing interception at the end. Patrick Mahomes' numbers, this is what really concerns me. Patrick Mahomes, somewhat efficient, 16 of 29, 187 yards, though, an interception, a 72.1 passer rating. That's just not good enough. Jalen Hurts was more efficient. Everyone out there is going to be saying, Jalen Hurts threw 101 yards. We had all that preseason crap about, is he an elite quarterback? He wins, Will. He won the Super Bowl. He's 2-0. They're the Super Bowl favorites again. I just look at this Chiefs team. The defense is not good enough. The defense was okay yesterday. Andy Reid's coaching right now is not good enough. And yeah, they're missing players, but like, what statement do they make? They want to make a statement about Rashee Rice and free number 4. Number 4 suspended for 6 games because he should be suspended for 6 games. Everything continues to look off. Not to mention Travis Kelce can't dress himself anymore. He's wearing shorts with a jacket like he's playing polo. Taylor Swift is apparently sneaking in a black box. The whole thing is off right now. But in the end, this dynasty as is over unless something stratospheric changes, and I don't see it happening to this team right now.
It's very difficult for me to entirely write them off. When Andy Reid is in the building, when Steve Spagnuolo's in the building.
Which is what we said last year.
And when Patrick Mahomes is in the building. And we said it last year because they weren't very good and they won 15 games and went to the Super Bowl.
Right.
Problem is they've already lost 2 games this year, as many as they lost last year in total. They've now lost 3 on the bounce for the first time since Patrick Mahomes entered into the league. First time in his career since, I think, year 2 in Texas Tech.
And he's never started 0-2 before. The last time they were 0-2 was 2014, and that was Travis Kelce's first full year as a starter. Patrick Mahomes has never been in this position before, Will.
But they can't run the ball. I said it already, 55 yards after 57 yards in the loss to the Charger. Patrick Mahomes, the leading rusher in both games. Their only touchdown drive was basically Mahomes' magic, getting outside the pocket, making plays happen, because there's nothing in the structure of the offense which looks incredibly outdated at this point, which is so not Andy Reid. Andy Reid's meant to be the great innovator, and yet nothing they're doing comes together. There's nothing to scare anyone. All right, they're taking deep shots downfield to a guy who was on a practice squad of the Patriots last year. Rashee Rice out, Xavier Worthy out, Travis Kelce in year 13, you mentioned it. The bobble on that interception.
He's got to catch that ball.
He has to catch that ball.
And Patrick Mahomes was like, I should have thrown it, at the numbers. The ball hit his hands. Every pro in the locker room will say, if it hits your hands, unless you're tipping it going high, if it hits your hands, you have to catch that ball. Another big problem.
And just to say, Drew McCouber, great return on it.
Yeah.
Josh Simmons, just a shout out for the left tackle, chasing him down, going 18 miles an hour doing so. But that's the only thing the offensive line did that was well, because Mahomes is hit 8 times in the opener, 10 times on Sunday. They can't protect their quarterback.
Can't protect him.
He can't create when he's in that situation. Right now, this Chiefs offense stinks, and the defense really isn't living up to what it needed to in previous years to carry them when they weren't having good.
And I always love to look ahead at the schedule, because we're talking about week 2, but let's look ahead. Okay, so all of a sudden, week 3 becomes very interesting because they're in New York, and we're going to get into this in a second, but with the return of Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited is back. That's now an interesting game because you're in New York, but then they play Baltimore. Then they're at Jacksonville, who we'll get into in a bit, but have been better. And then they play the Lions, who are suddenly really, really good again. This could be a team that is 3-3, that is 2-4. And if you are doing that, you ain't winning the Super Bowl, Will.
With the last 10 seconds, I think the tush push dies after this season. So much complaining about the penalties on social media. They ran 7 tush pushes yesterday, which was 11.7 of all their offensive snaps as the timer goes off. Like that, and everyone was going, it's offside every time. Yeah. Guys are in the game.
Too much.
There's too many false starts. I think the backlash really begun yesterday. I think the tush push, unfortunately, is also dead, Eagles fans. We'll talk more about the Eagles in weeks to come because, getting the win over the Cowboys. They're not looking at their best, but I think they'll get there. Let's go to another game in the NFC East, because the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants, and just before we do the 5 minutes, I want to just say this.
You're going to have a moment.
For 20 years, this game has been jammed down our throat with Tony Romo and Eli Manning sold as the best in-division quarterback matchup possibly available. It's been Sunday Night Football. It's been Monday Night Football. Occasionally, they've even let it be the game of the week at 9:25. This is the first time in 20 years that it's in the 1 p.m. Eastern window, and it delivers the best game these two have delivered in absolutely years. And what they did was
Do you smell that? Oh, man, it smells incredible. Russell Wilson in the kitchen with the ingredients. They let him buy the groceries. He's cooking again. Russell Wilson, 450 yards for Russell Wilson, 3 touchdowns, a 123 rating. After 2 weeks, who's the best quarterback in the NFL? It's hard to say it's not Russell Wilson. Now, he wasn't good in week 1.
No.
But in week 2,
it's very easy to say it's not Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson was absolutely fantastic. And they still lost that game, Will, and he threw a pick at the end. If Jackson Dart comes in for a few snaps, very weird from the New York Giants. They are 0-2. That for me, that was the game of the week. I could not stop watching it. Dak Prescott threw 52 passes in that game. What a barn burner.
Yeah, listen, I have been pleasantly surprised by the Cowboys so far under Brian Schottenheimer, mainly on that offense side of the ball.
They're more creative.
We said it going into the year that we thought that they could be interesting on that side of the ball, that they had the players to do it. George Pickens, beyond the horrible OPI penalty, had a really good game this week. They are going to move the ball a huge amount, score a huge amount, but teams are going to do the same to them. This is not going to be the only game this season involving the Dallas Cowboys where 70-plus points are scored and it ends up being a one-score game. I think we're going to see this time and time and time again. Javonte Williams reborn at 97 yards on the ground. You mentioned Dak Prescott being brilliant as well. But from that Giants perspective, all week, Russell Wilson heard, this is it.
Yep.
Last game.
Gotta let the rookie start.
He's going to get, this is end of an era.
I think we might have said it on this show as well, Will.
You know, a guy who was walking into Canton 5 years into his career. Now that claim is maybe a little wobbly after the way his career has ended. 2 Super Bowl appearances, played on that phenomenal Seahawks team, and he just went out there and he went, let's do some vintage Russ. Let's high point that ball.
He loves the high point. Russell High Point Wilson, that is what we call him.
The fact that Malik Neighbors touchdown in the first half, where he's arching backwards and does that full length catch, doesn't turn out to be his best touchdown pass and catch of the day. The forcing of the overtime, the 5 touchdown lead changes in the fourth quarter. It's just a barn burner. It's just great football. Unfortunately, I don't think either of these teams are going to be interesting come December or January.
They will not be in the playoffs, no.
But I think they will both deliver us some fun football this year.
I still think the question is, okay, so now that Russell Wilson has done this, and all of a sudden he's going to play the Chiefs, and it is fascinating to me. One of the things that I've always loved about the NFL, it is such a week-to-week league, kind of like the Premier League, where 1 week Nottingham Forest is going to win, the next week Everton. It changes weekly. Now it gets very interesting for the New York Giants because Russell Wilson just put up a performance that says, hey, with a better defense, we win this game. I still don't know how the Cowboys ended up tying that game. That was absolutely horrible from the Giants defense and the coaching staff. So now you have to punt on Jackson Dart a little, unless Russell Wilson is horrible against the Chiefs in week 3, and then you're in New York. He might be, and then you're getting booed off the field, and you go to Jackson Dart in week 4 or week 5. But we finally saw what Denver wanted to see from Russell Wilson, right? Mm-hmm. What Pittsburgh wanted to see. Russell Wilson just airing it out, saying the heck with it. Everyone says I'm going to get benched. I'm going to give this one more shot. The Giants should have won that game, but I'm going to flip it on you. I look at the Cowboys, and I'm still not pumped about this team. I'm not seeing anything that tells me that they're going to make a run. Because they should have finished off Philadelphia. They could not do it. And honestly, Will, for me, when I watched the entire game with my parents, by the way, who were visiting from the U.S., I watched that game, and I saw a Cowboys team that was hanging on in that game. The offense was able to produce. The defense was horrible last year. The defense is horrible again this year. And you let Micah Parsons go. And the Green Bay Packers are 2-0 and probably the best overall team in the NFL right now.
They do have Brandon Aubrey, though, which is one of the, trust me, as
who's the best player in the Cowboys? Without Brandon Aubrey or CeeDee Lamb or Dak Prescott?
Hit a 64-yarder without even blinking.
64, that was 75
this weekend. And honestly, still to me to this day, Mike McCarthy should have been sacked mid-season when he didn't let Brandon Aubrey go for a 70-yarder just before the half.
You know me, I would have fired Mike McCarthy 10 other times in the last 2 or 3 years.
What I will say, the other thing about these teams, as entertaining as they are and as fun as this game ended up being, can we clean it up a little bit, please? Because there were 26 accepted penalties between these two teams this weekend, and it was everything you could possibly name. Pass interference, offensive pass interference, roughing the passer, absolutely every single thing that they could have got called for, they were called for in this game. James Hudson had a minor meltdown early doors. It was an absolute and complete and utter mess, and we don't need a mess. We need fun football that's also clean football. That's my idea.
And we're going to segue into a team that did not play clean football. We're rolling through this show, Will. You follow everything at talksport.com, the TalkSport USA accounts. Like, subscribe, follow the channel, on and on. Can we get into what I thought was in some ways, the most fascinating game of the week?
You know it, sir. Let's go.
And it ends with Jake Browning.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Browning, who I guarantee you, average NFL fans still don't know, even though he's done this before and actually had a really nice run with the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals beat the Jags 31-27, and there was so much. This is why we love the NFL. There was so much coming out of this game. I know we're going to get in the Bengals and Burrow. I got to talk Jags for a second.
Okay. I'm here.
The sight of, and I don't know what you're going to say because we do this unscripted, we do this real, we make this up on the spot. For me, and I just wrote a column about this at talksport.com, for me, the sight of Trevor Lawrence blowing off Liam Coen and the Jags then coughing up that game was very, very, very symbolic of Trevor Lawrence as a pro in the NFL, making $275 million to be 25-39 as a starter. Liam Coen so far has exceeded expectations. The Jags should be 2-0. Trevor Lawrence in the end will, statistically, factually, realistically, and he was not horrible. He had 3 touchdowns. Do you know what his QBR was? 34.7. He is one of the worst rated quarterbacks in the NFL again. And overall, he was outplayed by Jake Browning, who drove that team down 15 plays, 92 yards. They went for it in 4th down. They were gutsy. The Bengals played harder for Jake Browning, a backup, than the Jags did for Trevor Lawrence. And the Jags keep losing games year after year that they have to win when you have Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback.
And we'll talk Bengals, like you say, but I want to be really clear to Bengals and Jags fans on this. The Jacksonville Jaguars were the better football team for 95% of this game. They should have won it. When Trevor Lawrence leads that first
they jagged
drive,
it. They were the Spurs. They jagged it up. They were the Spursy. This is what the Jaguars do, and this is what they do under Trevor Lawrence. Will
Joe Burrow had the horrible early drive that then led to Jacksonville having good field position, and Trevor Lawrence led them down the field. A couple of beautiful throws. You're sitting there. He hits De'Ami Brown on an absolute dime, and you're going, "Oh, Liam Coen's cooking a little bit." And then Trevor Lawrence throws one of the worst red zone interceptions I think I have ever seen. Couple of huge drops, of course. The De'Ami Brown one, absolutely horrible. The Brian Thomas one, absolutely horrible. But the play you're talking about, and this is exactly Trevor Lawrence's problem outside of the off-the-field stuff. On the field, we'll start with, is he has 3 or 4 throws a game, which 5 players in the NFL could make, that are absolutely sensational. And then on others, he just looks like he loses confidence. It looks like he loses focus.
Does he lose focus?
It looks like he loses concentration. And he just, when he turns Liam Coen, what Liam Coen's gesticulating is, if a guy is open, put it on his numbers.
Hit him in the numbers. Hit him in the numbers.
It's not
that's
hard.
What you're taught from grade school. That's what I would try to do if I was in the backyard.
What Liam Coen is doing is exactly what the guy in the stands behind him is probably doing, going, come on, Trevor, hit him in the numbers.
And I love that Liam Coen had the guts, knowing, like, I was Baker Mayfield's offensive coordinator. You know, I had a weird way to even go into this job. I said Duval wrong. He's shown passion on the sideline. He's shown his intelligence. The Jags offense looks much better overall under Liam Coen than Doug Peterson, who was horrendous, absolutely horrendous, a lot better than Urban Meyer. Under Meyer as well. And he's telling his quarterback live, you got to be better, dude. Like, you are not good enough. You have to be better. And what does Lawrence do? He blows him off.
He does blow him off.
He's like, don't talk to me.
But what I will say is that is probably more personality and passion from Trevor Lawrence on a football field than I've seen in the last. I agree with you. But what I hope Liam Coen can bring out of him is a bit more of his fighting spirit, a bit more of his lust to win,
he's clearly trying to do.
A bit more of his, because at the moment he is still this very robotic. I was trained to be the big pick. Alabama flew a helicopter to my high school training field to come and try and recruit me. I was always going to be the number 1 pick. I was always the guy.
I want from Trevor Lawrence? I want Trevor Lawrence week 3, literally, like, go Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
Cut the freaking hair, man. Shave your head. Come out looking like you're going to take on the world. You're the next robot who is going to take over the NFL. And guess what? He's never going to do that because we are 5 years in. They gave him that contract, and he just lost that game to Jake Browning after Joe Burrow is potentially out for 2 or 3 months because of their horrible offensive line and all their horrible decisions playing players. I don't know how Cincy is 2-0, and they're 2-0 because they have played their butts off.
Listen, they're 2-0, which they talked about starting fast.
Yeah,
it was very, very important.
They
managed to do it. And then their next 5 games, they are on the road to the Vikings, on the road to the Broncos, home to the Lions, on the road to the Packers, home to the Steelers.
They might be 2-5.
They might be 2-5. With Jay Browning, they might be 2-5. Those are some tough defenses. There's a lot to talk about with the Bengals, which I'm sure we'll get into a future show. But yeah, well done for being 2-0. I wouldn't hold on to the joy for too long. Sorry, Bengals fans.
The Bengals season might be over already. I mean, if Joe Burrow's out for 3 months, man, the Bengals season's over.
That is a tough run of games, undoubtedly, coming up. What was I going to talk about? No, I'm gonna save something. I was going to try and do a really cheesy radio link
improv
to get into the stinkers.
You're going to be Tom York.
I'm not going to do
taking over the stage, playing a B-side from In Rainbows.
There's no,
which I'm sure is going to happen at my show.
There's no Johnny Greenwood playing around with guitar pedals going on here. Thank you very much. So let's instead talk about one of the biggest busted storylines from week one, which is welcome back, Detroit. You went up against Ben Johnson, and now for five times in his career, five times in his career, it's honestly astonishing. Jared Goff has been on a team that has scored 50 points.
So you made fun of me a little, like within a message thing that we have, a bit of a group chat as we plan this show and talk about the NFL. You jokingly, I didn't take it personal. It was just business, but I think you made fun of me a little because we did our QB rankings at talkSPORT.com, which we do every week, top 20 quarterbacks in the NFL. And we also kind of have fun and say the quarterbacks most likely to be benched. And I had at the start of the season to have a little fun, a little spice in the UK, because everything's spicy over here. I had Jared Goff above Patrick Mahomes.
Wild. Still
and
wild
after
to me.
2 games, Jared Goff is better than Patrick Mahomes. Jared Goff against Ben Johnson and the Bears. 23 of 28, incredibly efficient, 334 yards, 11.9 yards per catch, 5 touchdowns, no picks, no sacks, 94.1 QBR, 156 passer rating. That is literally perfect. That is a work of art. Patrick Mahomes is more of a rusher now than he is a passing quarterback with the Kansas City Chiefs. 52 points, and they dropped it on Ben Johnson's face. And this is what I love. I love that the Lions players after, didn't they weren't like, yeah, it doesn't matter, just a game. No, they said this was personal. He could have gone anywhere. Ben Johnson was a top candidate, and he chose to go to Chicago and a division rival, and we're going to play him twice a year, and we dropped 52 on him, and we love doing it, and we'll see him again this year.
And look, the Lions offense we can wax lyrical about and talk about whether they're missing Ben Johnson and everything else, but the Lions defense made the game-altering plays, right? Kelvin Shepherd came out in the week beforehand and promised that they were looking to force turnovers in week 2. They were disappointed that they couldn't do it in week 1. Brian Branch all over the field like some kind of just heat seeker, absolutely hitting people left, right, and center. Popped a ball loose from DeAndre Swift, of course, former Lion, to force that fumble. He had a sack, 2 tackles for loss, a pass defended, the forced fumble, and 6 separate tackles. There was the Kirby Joseph diving interception, which was unbelievable. And while there were a bit of an early lack of pass rush, Aiden Hutchinson still, I think, clearly finding his feet.
His way back.
Roma Dunze getting those chunk plays early doors and those 2 touchdowns. The Bears' offense, over the course of the game, just like against the Vikings, they can look good on a drive or two when it's clicking, when Caleb is doing what he's meant to do in the structure of the play, with everything else. He gets off to a good start. 8 plays, 79-yard touchdown
The scripted
drive.
stuff. He's good at the scripted stuff,
Really good at that. And then another good possession to end the first half. And beyond that, just inconsistency left, right, and centre. Missed targets, ill-advised throws. There's like that off-balance heave that was like 10 yards off the mark and picked off. Like, there is clearly going to be struggles if he is allowed to be 2 Caleb Williams. If he's allowed to go 2 outside of the structure.
His strength is, and it was in college with USC and Oklahoma, that he can go off the cuff, and he can be one of those special quarterbacks, a Mahomes type, a Lamar Jackson type, but that has hurt him in the NFL. And we now have enough evidence, and Ben Johnson is trying to coach that out of him, and he's at his best when he is scripted. But it's early, but back-to-back weeks, we have continued to see proof that we saw last year, to where Caleb Williams is just too unscripted at times. Caleb Williams off the cuff hurts the Bears. Caleb Williams is not efficient enough. And for me, this was a game of domination and efficiency. Detroit last season, when they were in many ways regular season the best team in the NFC until we got to the playoffs, their offensive efficiency was absolutely bonkers, historic. The Bears, both their games, as you just said perfectly, good at times, horrible at times. What does that get you in the NFL? You're 0-2.
Mm-hmm.
You're 0-2 in a really, really good division, Will.
And all that early season excitement. And I really do like Ben Johnson. And I
do too. Smart, obviously a pretty smart guy.
And I think the Bears roster has elements to it which can be exciting. And there are bits of it which threaten to show good things, right? There is potential there, left, right, and centre. It's just, if you want to get it together, you just, I think, bring it back to basics, get super consistent, do the simple stuff right, and they're not doing any of that right now. And the Lions look back to being a juggernaut again after week 1. Like, I can't tell whether we overreacted more to the Lions being terrible in week 1 or to the Bears being great in the first half against the Vikings.
So, you know what? Well, we're going to find out, because speaking of schedules and ahead, Week 3, probably the game of the week in the United States of America. The Detroit Lions at the Baltimore Ravens. That Jared Goff, Lamar Jackson, Dan Campbell, John Harbaugh, those are two, last year's Super Bowl favorite, this year's Super Bowl favorite, the MVP. That is one heck of a game. So how real are the Lions? Are they fixed? We're going to find out this week.
And you know it's live on talkSPORT 2, Monday night, Tuesday morning, 1 a.m.
It is amazing how many
guy.
games get covered and called on talkSPORT. What, record 90 this year with a new partnership with the NFL. The amount of work that you guys put in. I'm scrolling to the phone. I'm on the talkSPORT app. NFL game, NFL game, NFL game, and of course everything at talksport.com.
Right. Let's talk. And we kind of did a little bit of this last week where we went over some of our likes and
We had a little more
dislikes of
fun.
the week. This week, we're just going to go hard dislikes. This is 5 minutes talking stinkers. Brian T. Smith.
Joe freaking Flacco, man. Let's start there. And I like Joe Flacco, and I mean, man, like the whole thing back in the day was Joe Flacco elite. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. Joe Flacco, Super Bowl MVP. Joe Flacco is 40-ish. Joe Flacco looks older than Aaron Rodgers right now. Joe Flacco looks like he should not be starting in the NFL. And the fact that out of all of the teams in the NFL, that the Cleveland Browns convinced themselves that they would have Joe Flacco this year, when you have Deshaun Watson, you have Dylan Gabriel, you have, some guy named Shedeur Sanders, that you're going to go with Joe Flacco. He was horrible, Will, in week 2. Horrible. And it ain't getting better, man. And if I am the Cleveland Browns, I'm calling it right now. Dylan Gabriel comes in, and what does he do? Oh, my God, he threw a touchdown. That is your future. At some point, Shedeur Sanders might be your future, although Shedeur Sanders apparently thinks he's too good for the Baltimore Ravens. He could have actually played on a good team, but he was too cool and had too much swagger for that. I'm benching Joe Flacco right now. I wouldn't have started Joe Flacco. I would have had a different answer than that. Joe Flacco had that Aaron Rodgers sitting down face. He is too old, he is too slow, and he was throwing interceptions that you cannot throw when you are immobile at 40 years old. That is my number one stinker this week.
You know who had a real stinker this week? And might be having
I have a feeling
the
you're about to
stinker of the
tell me.
season. The Miami Dolphins.
You stole my other stinker, Will.
I've got to just lay some of this
I
out
have
on you.
fire Mike McDaniel right now, and you stole that from me. So now I have to come up with another
do you know
stinker.
what? Do you know what? Here's the thing with Mike
Gosh,
McDaniel.
bleeping
No,
bleeper.
you can tell me why, right? But if Mike McDaniel gets fired now,
I like the stinker, so I'm gonna figure another one out while you're talking.
give him the run game coordinator job in San Francisco immediately, because some people in this world are designed.
He's a smart guy
to sit in an office.
Yeah.
With a chalkboard, with a whiteboard, and draw up plays and watch film
And wear
come up with great
sweatpants with
ideas.
sunglasses.
And I love the man dearly.
Yeah,
for the
it's
man
not personal,
that
it's
he is.
business.
But boy, oh boy, Tua Tagovailoa's. The first part of the day nearly continued last week's calamity. Luckily enough, offsetting penalties negated a terrible interception. Then actually, the high octane offense showed up. Tyreek Hill, 6 receptions, 109 yards. Jalen Waddle, 5 receptions, 68 yards and a touchdown. Devon Achane, 8 receptions, 92 yards and a long touchdown. It was all looking very sexy. You were like, okay, their defense is giving up a lot, because I think the Dolphins' defense might be all-time bad. It's one for another week, but I think they show that you can't just have one unit that's half decent and expect a whole defense to work. But on the final 2 drives of the game, needing a touchdown to win, Miami gave up 2 delay of game penalties, 2 false starts,
Coaching.
3 sacks, and a pick which Tua threw straight into the arms of Martin Mapu.
Tua
It was
is toast.
woeful.
Tua is toast.
Woeful.
I just found my number 2 stinker, and this one was pretty easy, just going through the NFL table, or the standings as we used to call it, United States of America. Number 2 stinker of the week, and this one's pretty easy. Aaron Glenn and the New York Jets. First, I'm sorry. It's business. It's not personal, Will.
No, I know.
I don't care if you like him. This is the NFL. This is cutthroat. This is real stuff.
I had
Aaron
real
Glenn-
hopes after that Steelers
It doesn't
game.
matter.
I thought this
Aaron
could be
Glenn
an
comes in
interesting team.
talking tough. Aaron Glenn. So, my whole thing is coordinators either really work or they do not work at all as NFL head coaches. And I question the Aaron Glenn hire, and I have no apologies for that.
Very early for that.
No, I question the hire when they made it, because Aaron Glenn is a specialist. Aaron Glenn is not an offensive guy. Aaron Glenn isn't an offensive wizard. Aaron Glenn has, great personality. He can lead men. He can tick 2 or 3 of those boxes, 2 or 4 of those boxes. He has nothing to do offensively. So if you're going to hang your hat, you're hanging your hat on defense. They've given up 64 points. They were completely outclassed, Will, in week 2, and their defense was the worst part of their game in week 1. They should have won week 1 against the Steelers, and their defense was horrible. What is Aaron Glenn? So you're gonna cut your punt returner because he fumbles the ball because you're sending a message, and you come out in week 2 and your whole team was absolutely horrendous. So you've already started to lose stature. We're talking about the Jets, the Jets, Jets. They get embarrassed by Aaron Rodgers in week 1. They barely show up in week 2. Aaron Glenn's already in a huge hole. Week 2 stinker, New York Jets and Aaron Glenn.
My biggest overreaction to week 1 was to go, the Bills' defense was dreadful in week 1, and I think might be a unit that can't win them a championship. The Jets' offense was surprisingly sneaky.
They were in week 1.
So I started Justin Fields in fantasy. That was a
Who's
mistake.
your second stinker?
My second stinker is going to be the Denver Broncos folding in the fourth quarter in the horse derby, because between, a game that for so often it looked like they were going to win, the Bo Nix interception by Cam Bynum.
Bo Nix has been a little mad to start this season.
Absolutely. J.K. Dobbins drawing that delay of game penalty for spiking the ball. Adam Troutman being flagged for the face mask. Will Lutz clanging the 42-yarder off the upright, which would have put them into a place where a field goal wouldn't have won the game for the Colts. And then I know I'm past the timer, but for the final play of the game, you've managed to, with lots of time on the clock, against a Danny Dimes, who has actually been moving the ball pretty well all day.
Danny Dimes is back.
You held them. You had them in a 4th and long at the 60, from a 60-yard field goal mark, so at the 50. You were just like, easy, fine, 60-yarder, rookie, no chance they're going to make this. They pull it wide right, it's celebration, running onto the field. Peyton's like, yes, we are back. This Broncos team, we are here. We are 2-0. Our big division rivals are 0-2. We're going to win the AFC West. We're going to the Super Bowl, baby. And then you just see the yellow on the field. You just see that laundry, and you realise that DJ Jones has quite literally taken the centre's head and planted it into the floor in order to create an anchor point for the defender to jump over the top of it. It's one of the worst penalties of the weekend.
That's sportsmanship. There's nothing wrong with that.
It moves the ball 15 yards because it's a personal foul penalty. It makes a 45-yarder absolute chip shot, and suddenly the Indianapolis Colts, who none of us had any hopes for whatsoever, are 2-0 and leading the AFC South. Amazing. I love the NFL. It's so wonderfully
Let's do
unpredictable.
this before we get out of here. What's your favorite Radiohead record? And you can't say OK Computer.
Okay, so OK Computer is the best Radiohead record, right?
I mean, everyone in the world knows
Yeah.
that, but you can't pick that as your favorite.
So my favorite for personal reasons,
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
is Kid A.
Nice.
But I understand why there's been this hipster move towards In Rainbows in recent years as being the best record.
Mine's In Rainbows.
Yeah.
But mine was In Rainbows when it came out, and it actually, for me, it was a bit of a Radiohead retaking the throne as the coolest, smartest band in the world, which obviously had with OK Computer, and then built on with Kid A and Amnesiac. I actually think Amnesiac is their most underrated. Amnesiac is freaking insanely incredible and
We're going to do
brilliant.
tiers of Radiohead records, and there's going to be a lot in the top.
Hail to the Thief, half brilliant, too long, bloated. Obviously, they turned it into a bit of Hamlet. And some of their best songs, like They're There, one of the greatest Radiohead songs of all time.
So good live.
But if I have to pick my favorite record, and now what was In Rainbows 06 or 09? I'm getting old now.
What I remember is
I think it was 09.
Is I paid 40 quid for the big booklet,
for the
vinyl,
yes,
CDs,
yes,
and everything
yes.
else. And now it's like I pay 40 quid for one vinyl. Like,
right.
It
Don't
felt
get me started on how
felt ridiculous.
The
at the
vinyl
time.
market now, how overpriced it is, as somebody who's had 10,000 records in their life. But as time has gone on, and Rainbows has completely held up. And now that I listen to that record, it's 10 songs. Like, granted, there was a whole thing of B-sides from it in Rainbows too. But for me, like that
the second record is brilliant. Though.
Is so incredible and holds up so well, almost on an OK Computer level. So my favorite Radiohead record is In Rainbows, with Amnesiac probably number 2.
Wow, there we go. And that is why...
That is what we do.
Variety
the
is the spice of life. Wonderful stuff. Look, check out the YouTube channel, talkSPORT USA. Loads of great interviews up there. Loads of great analysis. Loads of great nonsense. Like, honestly, we're just getting started, because in a few weeks' time, we're off to Dublin. Then we've got the London games. Then we've got Madrid. Then we've got Berlin. And we're going to be rolling this thing all the way through to San Francisco for the Super Bowl. We're going to have so many exclusive interviews, so many fun bits from games. We're going to do live streams of our live games. We're going to do all sorts of. There's like I probably can't tell you about this yet, but there's going to be some live streams in season as well to keep an eye out on. There's so much cool stuff coming up, so please go and subscribe. Really, it makes a big difference to how many people see it. It's building, it's slowly but surely.
It is, Will.
And we want to see you there as well. So get involved, comment on this. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the NFL Show.